Thank you. So my talk today is about ambient air quality. But to be clear, it's not a talk about doom and gloom. It's about awareness, hope, and action. So let me tell you a little story about how I came to be interested in air pollution in Ahmedabad. About this time last year, I liked going for a jog at Xavier's College, which is not too far from where I live. And invariably, I would come home with this persistent cough and these cold-like symptoms, except it never materialized into a cold. So after a few days, it would go away. And that really got me thinking about the kind of air quality that I was breathing. So let's dive in. On the count of three, I'd like you all to take a deep breath. 1, 2, 3. So as human beings, we do this about 12 to 20 times per minute. And when we do so, we inhale about 78% nitrogen, 20% oxygen, and tiny amounts of other gases like argon, methane, and carbon dioxide. If you live in an urban environment like Ahmedabad, you're also inhaling pollutants like sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, ozone, and last but not least, particulate matter. And this is what we're going to focus on here, because particulate matter is measured the world over to quantify air quality. So what is particulate matter? It's particles that are suspended in the air, solid or liquid, typically coming from things like smoke, soot, dust, and such. Particulate matter falls into two categories. You have PM10, which means particulate matter, and then 10 stands for the maximum size of that particle, so 10 micrometers. And the very small particulate matter is PM2.5. So again, that's the PM is particulate matter, and 2.5 stands for 2.5 micrometers or smaller. We're going to look at that particular one. So just how small is PM2.5? There's a little bit of light on the screen here, but if you see there's a little red dot here on the left, that's PM2.5, and that ginormous hole on the right, that ginormous circle, that's the diameter of a human hair. So that's a very, very small particulate matter here. And this is relevant because particulate matter travels inside our body as we inhale. And how far that particulate matter makes it into the body is a factor of its size. With PM2.5, it's so small that the lungs can't effectively filter it. So it ends up entering through the alveoli and into the bloodstream. Once it's in the bloodstream, it does things like inflame blood vessels, it displaces fatty plaque, and over time, imagine if what you're breathing in is this air with elevated amounts of PM2.5, you're in a state of long-term inflammation. This can lead to strokes, heart attacks, and such. For the brain, researchers have begun to link long-term exposure of PM2.5 to premature aging of the brain, reduced cognitive functions, and even white matter damage, which is linked to things like Alzheimer's and dementia. So the health hazards of pollution are many. In the University of Chicago, they found that if we could meet the targets of the World Health Organization in Ahmedabad, we could extend the life expectancy of the average person by 2.2 years. These are not extreme numbers. This is you and me. We would probably live 2.2 years longer if the air quality was at World Health Organization standards. So a lot of people have been doing research into the air quality here, and in 2017, the department, or the Ministry of Earth Sciences, released an emissions inventory for PM2.5. What's really interesting is you can see kind of the different aspects and the different contributions to the PM2.5 pollution. Very often people talk about trash burning, and this trash burning is it's kind of this pariah because it's very visible, but it actually only contributes 3% of the particulate matter pollution. If you look at this residential at 7%, that's actually just fuel burning for cooking, things like cow dung, kerosene, wood. That contributes 7% of the particulate matter. And then you've got windblown dust. So Ahmedabad is fighting an uphill battle. We've got a lot of dust in the air. But the other two main culprits are industry and energy and transport. Now, energy and industry were clubbed together, but you can bet that the energy part of things is highly polluting because in India we use a lot of coal with our electricity. Oftentimes when we think of air pollution, we conjure up these images of China and we say, ooh, you know, I'm so glad I don't live there. It turns out in terms of top rankings of PM 2.5 pollution, China is only number 4 and India is number 2, only behind Nepal. So let me tell you another story. About late 2018, California was hit with a number of wildfires inland. And these fires were really bad. They burnt hundreds of thousands of acres. And they emitted a lot of smoke. So there was news about the type of air quality that was very poor all along the Pacific coast. And people were taking precautions. They were wearing masks. They were staying indoors. And so I was curious. I opened up my world map of air pollution, and I hovered over California to look at the particulate matter. And then I hovered over Ahmedabad, and they were neck and neck. It was almost the same. The only difference is in Ahmedabad, it was business as usual for us. We didn't take any particular precautions that day, and the air quality didn't make the news. So that reminded me of another story, which is the story of the boiling frog. If you put a frog in a hot bowl of water and you dunk it in, the frog realizes the water's hot, oh my God, and it jumps out. Now, if you take a frog and you put it in a cold bowl of water and you raise the temperature of the water very gradually, the frog doesn't notice the water temperature changing and it boils to death. So in this case, California was a frog that felt the water getting very hot very quickly and jumped out to save itself. In Ahmedabad, the air quality is decreasing, and if we don't take note, if we don't act, we could also end up finding the water to be very hot around us. So we also want to take action and be the frog that saves itself by realizing what's happening and jumping out. In that context, I think it helps to think of air as a resource. And like any resource, if you manage it carefully, you can enjoy an abundance of it. And if you don't, you could end up falling into what I call air poverty. And air poverty affects everybody within a given geographic area. So, like I said, there's hope. And there are a lot of things that people can do to improve the situation. A growing number of countries have something called an air quality index, and this is India's air quality index. The purpose of these things is to let people know in common language the quality of the air they're breathing. With the Indian one, it's really nice. There's also a health advisory for different demographics like the elderly, the young, people who are sensitive and such. And this is important, and I'm going to tell you a little story here. This is my father-in-law, Minu, who's in the audience. So Minu is in his early 70s, and he likes to say he's fit as a horse. And he rides his bicycle 30 kilometers at a time. He exercises 6 days a week. And Minu, last year, around February, March, had this lingering cough. And it just wouldn't go away. He went to the doctor, wouldn't go away. And finally, I looked at the historical pollution data for that period that he was riding his bicycle outdoors. And I noticed that the air quality was really, really poor when he was going out cycling. So we realized he needed to scale back his outdoor activity, and as he did so, the cough subsided. This year, my mother-in-law, Yasmin, downloaded an app called Safad, which provides real-time air quality data using the air quality index. And before Minu goes outside to exercise, they look at the air quality to decide whether it's actually a good idea or not. And this is a great practice for anybody. If you're doing outdoor activity and you're living in a potentially polluted environment, you should consider downloading an app that covers your area. This is a great one because there are actually 10 air quality monitoring stations all around the city. And so you can look at your specific area, or you can look at Ahmedabad as a whole. In terms of potential for impact of young people, there's a lot that you can do. If, suppose you're entering your family business, you can decide to make environmental responsibility a priority. And say you're interested in good governance. You could look at environmental policy, and remember that air quality and governance are very closely linked. If you're in STEM fields or in design perhaps, there's a lot of opportunity to modernize the energy infrastructure in India. Electricity in India is about 70% coal, and coal is a very big emitter of CO2 and particulate matter. There's a wonderful opportunity to tackle both at the same time. The type of activities that emit particulate matter often emit CO2, which is a greenhouse gas, so you can tackle one and the other together. For people who are interested in urban planning, you could consider vehicle electrification, bolstering public transport, and such. So, humanity has faced difficult problems in the past. The older people in the room will remember the ozone crisis in the late 80s. There was this massive hole discovered in the ozone layer, and people were very concerned about the types of health issues that would come from it. In '87, they signed what's called the Montreal Protocol, and then they took intelligent action. And today, this hole has shrunk by more than 40 lakh square kilometers. So that's 4 million square kilometers. That's an area bigger than the size of India. And this hole is on track to heal itself in the coming decades. At the city level, you've got cities like Osaka, Los Angeles, London, that have done a wonderful job of lowering their once terrible pollution levels to very acceptable ones. So, bad air quality in Ahmedabad doesn't have to become a fact of life. With collective awareness and with intelligent actions, with enough people chipping away at the problem, we can create a wealth of good, safe, quality air for ourselves and for the people we love. So, one last time, please take a deep breath on 3. 1, 2, 3. And smile. Thank you. Thank you.